My rich neighbor mocked me for buying a small house, snickering, "Let me know when you can afford something decent." Months later, he went bankrupt and begged me to let him rent my guest house. Smiling, I replied, "Let me know when you can afford it." When I moved into my modest home in a quiet suburb of Austin, Texas, I was proud of what I had accomplished. After years of hard work, I finally had a place to call my own. The neighborhood was peaceful, with tree-lined streets and friendly faces, except for one. From the moment I arrived, my next-door neighbor, Richard, made his disdain clear. His house was a sprawling mansion, complete with a circular driveway and a fountain. He often hosted lavish parties, with luxury cars lining the street. In contrast, my home was a simple 3-bedroom with a small yard. One evening, as I was tending to my garden, Richard sauntered over, a smirk playing on his lips. "Nice little place you've got here," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Let me know when you can afford something decent." I bit my tongue, offering a polite nod. There was no point in engaging with someone so condescending. But his words stung, and they lingered in my mind. Months passed, and I focused on making my house a home. I planted flowers, painted the walls, and even built a small guest house in the backyard, envisioning it as a space for visiting family or potential rental income. Meanwhile, Richard's parties grew more extravagant. The neighborhood buzzed with whispers about his spending habits. Some speculated that his wealth was inherited, others believed he was living beyond his means. Then, the rumors were confirmed. Richard's business ventures had failed, and his debts had piled up. The once proud man was now facing foreclosure. The luxury cars disappeared, and the party ceased. One afternoon, there was a hesitant knock on my door. Opening it, I was surprised to find Richard standing there, looking disheveled and anxious. "Michael," he began, avoiding eye contact. I know we've had our differences, but I'm in a bit of a bind. I heard you have a guest house. Any chance you'd consider renting it to me?" I paused, recalling our previous interactions. The memory of his mocking words resurfaced. Taking a deep breath, I met his gaze. "Let me know when you can afford it," I replied, echoing his earlier remark. His face paled, and he nodded slowly, turning away without another word. In the weeks that followed, Richard moved out of his mansion, and a new family moved in. I continued to enjoy my modest home, grateful for what I had and the lessons learned. Richard didn't just walk away and disappear like I expected. A few days after I turned him down, I noticed his old car parked at the end of the street. He was living in it. The same guy who once laughed at my tiny house now slept in the back seat of a beat-up Lexus. He still wore those expensive dress shirts, though they were now wrinkled and stained. He looked like someone who hadn't accepted the fall yet. At first, I ignored it. I didn't owe him anything. He had mocked me, humiliated me in front of my neighbors, and made me feel small. But every morning, when I saw him brushing his teeth in a gas station cup outside his car, I started to feel, not pity, but something close. Maybe just discomfort. One morning, I found him sitting on the curb across the street, staring at my house. Not my guest house. My main house. "I'm just watching the sunrise," he said when I walked out to grab the mail. But his eyes weren't on the sky. That's when I decided to put a lock on the gate to the backyard. Something about the way he looked made me nervous. The way he used to smirk had turned into this flat, dead-eyed stare. It was like all the charm had been drained out of him, and what was left was just hungry. Then one night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of something outside. Not loud, just a low scraping. I looked out the window and saw a shadow moving around near the guest house. I called out, "Hey," and whoever it was bolted. I couldn't see the face, but the way they ran, kind of limping on the left leg, matched Richard. I filed a police report just in case. Nothing major happened for a while, but it got into my head. I started double-checking locks. I put up a camera by the side gate. I even moved some tools from the shed into the house. It was like living next to a stray dog that might bite. Then something weird happened. I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Still think you're better than me?" No name, just that. I blocked the number, but more started coming in. Always from a new number. They weren't direct threats, Just little jabs. Comments about my car, my job, my family, which was creepy because I don't post about them online. One message said, "Nice roses by the porch. Shame if something happened to them." I checked the cameras and saw nothing. Either he was really careful or it wasn't him. But come on, who else would it be? A few days later, I saw him talking to one of my neighbors, Mrs. Reynolds, an older lady who bakes for everyone on the block. She was handing him a bag of something, probably food. He smiled, said something, then looked directly at me while walking back to his car. That smile, it wasn't friendly. It was a warning. That same night, my roses were ripped out of the ground. Not just picked, ripped, with the roots and all. Dirt flung across the walkway. It was so petty, so stupid, but it worked. I was pissed. I printed the texts, saved the footage, and called the cops again. They said they couldn't do much unless he actually stepped on my property again or made a direct threat. Harassment laws are tricky unless it escalates. And it did escalate. The twist came 2 weeks later. I got a call from my bank. Someone tried to use my name to apply for a credit card. Luckily, they flagged it because of the weird info in the application. But that told me one thing: whoever did it had some of my personal data. I ran a full check on everything: credit reports, online accounts, security cameras. No sign of break-in. That left only one theory. He had gotten to my trash. I remembered tossing some old paperwork a few months back. Nothing major, an old pay stub, a utility bill, but enough for someone like Richard to start something. I went outside and saw him again, pretending to sleep in his car in the middle of the day, windows cracked. I walked up, knocked on the glass. He opened one eye. "Need something? You going through my trash now?" He gave me that look again. Flat. Emotionless. "You think too highly of yourself." That was it. I decided I was done playing defense. I started documenting everything. Cameras on all sides of the house. Motion-activated lights. I filed a civil restraining order request, even though I was told it might not go through. I didn't care, I wanted a paper trail. But just when I thought I had a grip on things, something happened that made me question everything. Richard was gone. One day, the car wasn't there. A week passed. Then 2. Nothing. I asked around. No one had seen him. Even Mrs. Reynolds said he hadn't come by for food in days. Then, one morning, I found a letter stuck to my front door. No envelope. Just folded paper, taped right to the wood. It read, "You may have one for now. But we'll see who really owns the street in the end." That's when I knew it wasn't over. Not even close. Want to keep going? Let me know, and I'll dive into what happened next. Things got even darker. 2 days after the letter showed up on my door, I noticed the smell. It was faint at first, like something wet and rotting, but by the 3rd day, it hit hard. It was coming from my guest house. I hadn't rented it out since Richard asked. I kept it clean, used it for storage sometimes. But that smell? It wasn't old furniture. It was sharp, sour, heavy. I grabbed a flashlight and went out there. The door was locked, just like I'd left it. But when I stepped inside, my stomach turned. Someone had broken in. Not through the door, through the window on the side, the one I never thought to secure because it was so narrow. The screen had been popped out, glass cracked. Inside, the place was a mess. Trash everywhere, food wrappers, cigarette butts. An empty bottle of whiskey rolled off the counter when I stepped in. On the bed was a soaked, filthy blanket that looked like it had been used as a mattress for weeks. In the corner, what made me stop cold was a notebook. Black cover. Torn edges. I opened it. Inside were pages and pages of notes. Not just notes. Logs. Times I left for work. What I wore. Who I talked to. What deliveries I received. Even things like argued with Bankrupt on phone 2:34 p.m. and watched TV alone Friday 11:17 p.m. I read 3 pages before I had to stop. My hands were shaking. I didn't call the police this time. I drove straight to the station and handed them everything. Photos, the notebook, the security footage, the letter. I demanded a restraining order and filed trespassing charges. They said they'd look into it, but since Richard had vanished, they couldn't do much unless they caught him. Caught him doing what? I wanted to scream. What more do you need, blood? But then something new happened. 3 days after the police visit, I came home from work to find my front door wide open. My stomach dropped. I ran inside. Nothing was stolen. Nothing moved. Except one thing. On the kitchen counter was a cup. My own coffee mug. But it was full of water. Sitting perfectly centered on a paper towel. Like someone had made themselves at home. Like it was a message. No sign of forced entry. Nothing on the cameras. It was like he walked through walls. I replaced every lock that night. Bought better cameras. Started sleeping with a bat next to my bed. And I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching me, still close. Waiting. That weekend, Mrs. Reynolds rang my doorbell. I don't want to alarm you, she said gently, but someone's been going through my trash at night. I thought it was raccoons, but yesterday I found old mail missing. I saw a man outside around 3 a.m., near your fence. I asked if she could describe him. She hesitated. It looked like Richard, but thinner. And slower. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the dark with my bat, staring at the window. Another letter came the next day. No threats this time. Just one sentence, you should have let me in. I handed it over to the cops again. They promised they'd patrol the area more. But they still hadn't found Richard. Said he had no listed address, no job, no digital footprint. Almost like he didn't exist anymore. Then I started getting emails. They were from addresses I didn't recognize. Names like Homeowner84 at ProtonMail and NeighborWatch66 at Outlook. They weren't written like spam. They were short, sharp messages. You're not safe. He's not finished. Check under your crawl space. I didn't want to, but I did. And I found something. Tucked under the wooden beams, wrapped in plastic, was a phone. Dead battery. I charged it, then turned it on. It had one photo saved. Me. Sleeping. Taken from inside the house. That's when I stopped feeling like a victim. I started feeling hunted. This wasn't about a guest house anymore. This wasn't about revenge. Richard had cracked. He wasn't just trying to scare me. He was trying to make me live like he had, paranoid, looking over my shoulder, unsure of who I could trust. And it was working. But I wasn't going to just sit there. I had a plan forming. I just needed proof, real proof. The kind that couldn't be explained away or dismissed. Because if I caught him in the act, I'd make sure the next knock on my door was from the cops dragging him away. I set a trap. I took a week off work and didn't tell anyone. Parked my car at a friend's house across town so it looked like I was gone. Shut off the main lights, but left one bedroom light on to make it look like I'd forgotten. Then I waited. 2 nights in, nothing. Just silence and the distant hum of highway noise. 3rd night, around 3:12 a.m., I saw movement. The side gate creaked. A figure moved slowly along the fence line, flashlight pointed low. I turned on my monitor, motion cameras were recording. The figure slid into the guest house again, just like before. Same window. But this time, I was ready. I waited 30 minutes. Then I stepped outside, slowly, with my phone recording in one hand and a crowbar in the other. I moved quiet, heart pounding, sweat on my back, even though the night was cold. When I reached the guest house door, I kicked it open. There he was. Richard. Dirty, skinnier than ever, beard like a wild animal. Digging through the cabinet like he lived there. He jumped back, eyes wide. For the first time since all this started, he looked afraid. "What are you doing?" I yelled. He didn't answer. Just froze. "I told you to stay away. You stalked me, broke into my home, watched me sleep. And for what? A damn guest house." "I had nothing," he said. "I lost everything. I used to be someone. You were nothing. And now you're standing there like you own the world. You did this to yourself," I snapped. "You mocked everyone. You threw your money in our faces. And when it crumbled, you blamed me." He stepped forward, shaky. "You could have helped. You had a chance. You turned me down. And you came back with threats," I said. Then I heard the sirens. I'd called the police 5 minutes before entering. I knew I'd need backup. Richard ran. Out the back, into the yard. I chased him, cameras still rolling. He jumped the fence, but didn't land right. I heard the snap. He screamed. When the cops arrived, they found him crawling down the alley, leg broken, blood on his hands. They cuffed him, read him his rights. He didn't fight, just kept saying, "He ruined me. He ruined everything." He was charged with trespassing, stalking, attempted identity theft, and unlawful entry. They found more evidence on him, a flash drive with private data he stole from neighbors. This wasn't just about me. He'd been watching others too. The trial was ugly. A lot of neighbors testified. Mrs. Reynolds, the couple across the street, even the mailman. I sat there, listened, felt that weird mix of anger and guilt. Because here's the truth, I did want revenge. I liked seeing him fall. I liked the power shift. But somewhere in all this, I let it get personal. I didn't have to say what I said that day, "Let me know when you can afford it." I meant it to hurt. And it did. But I never imagined it would lead here, him breaking into homes, digging through trash, watching people sleep. The judge sentenced him to 3 years in prison. Mental health evaluation included. The court said he'd shown signs of delusion and emotional collapse. Afterward, I stayed in my house. Fixed the locks. Removed the cameras. Got a dog. Neighbors started talking to me more. They thanked me. Called me brave. But I didn't feel brave. I felt exhausted. I learned that sometimes the line between justice and revenge is thin. And stepping over it, just a little, can make you part of the problem. I was just a man trying to protect his home. But in doing that, I became part of Richard's obsession too. Maybe we both made mistakes. He let pride destroy him. I let bitterness drive me. One of us got handcuffed. The other still checks the locks 5 times before going to bed.